Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 310 Lawlessness, the Spiritual Growth. Salvation is only for those who are willing to put in the work. The podcast objectives are revisit the call to perfection and its association with lawlessness, analyze the importance of spiritual growth, and reveal how we grow into the spiritual image and likeness of Yahushua Messiah. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The call to perfection persists. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 19 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, we analyzed the substance and the significance of making a full investment in the spirit of Elohim. No doubt, there were many key takeaways from this podcast. And yet, if there is one that I would encourage you to hold fast, it is the following interest point. If you didn't bookmark it then, I advise you to bookmark it now. Unlocking the powers of the set apart spirit is not an option for those who desire to obtain the seal of Elohim and become heirs to the eternal salvation. Now, we proved this matter using multiple scriptures. And if you are well versed in the good book, then you know that there are hundreds we didn't touch on for the sheer sake of time. Notwithstanding, I would revisit the passage we touched on in Ephesians. To wit, Ephesians 4:11 through 13 confirms that Yahuwah has established the ministry for one single purpose, that is, the perfecting of these set apart ones. My dear friends, this is why I am teaching this podcast. This is why Pinnacle of Holiness Ministries exists. It is for your perfection and your edification, vis-a-vis the spiritual process in which we all come to the unity of the belief and the knowledge of the Son of Elohim. Remember, our master is the perfect man, and his Torah is defined by perfection. This is why he commanded us in Matthew 5:48, saying, "Therefore, be perfect as your Father in the heavens is perfect." Now, besides the fact that we are not spiritually compatible with Elohim apart from perfection, we have already proven that it is impossible to make a full investment in the spirit and fail to achieve perfection. Likewise, it is impossible to follow the steps of a perfect man, i.e., Yahushua Messiah, and fail to achieve perfection. This is why Yahushua has warned us that those who pursue lawlessness are the offspring of Satan, and thus the call to perfection persists. We grow up in all respects. Now, as I have often said before, achieving perfection does not happen overnight. It takes time. Just like eliminating all the degrees of lawlessness takes time. Just like unlocking all the powers of the Spirit takes time. As you can see by the image to the left, perfection is at the top of the pinnacle of holiness. Ergo, there are 16 primary degrees of holiness we must succeed before we unlock all the powers of the Spirit and become masters of the Father's will. Not only this, but in mastering these 16 primary degrees of holiness, we must also eliminate the 80 degrees of lawlessness. Trust me, this will be no small feat, and it will not happen overnight. Not only this, but our mastery of all the degrees of holiness will result in major transformations within our physical and spiritual lives. And as you have likely guessed, these transformations will not happen overnight. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this: our salvation is a process, and it is a process which can only be fulfilled by those who have a mind for spiritual increase. It can only be achieved by those who are willing to put in the work required to grow in the Spirit. Look, listen, this is the second half of the word of truth Shaul has written. Vis-a-vis, he validates that where there is no growth, there can be no perfection. And where there is no perfection, there can be no edification. And where there is no edification, there is no salvation. Ephesians 4:14 through 16 is revealing, so that we should no longer be children, tossed and borne about by every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, and cleverness unto the craftiness of leading astray. But maintaining the truth in love, we grow up in all respects into him who is the head, Messiah, from whom the entire body, joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the working by which each part does its share, causes growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Now, the key line in this passage reveals we grow up in all respects into him who is the head, Messiah. My dear friends, this is the essence of spiritual increase and growth, but not just any growth. Vis-a-vis, we grow up into the spiritual image and likeness of Yahushua Messiah, who is the head. Per the image to the left, Yahushua Messiah, being the head and the epitome of perfection, is seated at the top of the pinnacle of holiness. That is, at the right hand of Elohim, a place of authority where we too have been called to be seated. All we have to do is follow the path before us. And as Shaul has warned us, do not be led astray by false doctrine, neither be tossed to and fro. Rather, maintain the truth in love and complete every spiritual work required for you to grow. Will you complete the work? Now, the summation of these matters brings us to a decisive conclusion concerning the parallel natures of holiness and lawlessness, which I will offer as an inflection point. Consider this: the only way to eliminate Every degree of lawlessness is to unlock every power of the Spirit in our pursuit of holiness, perfection, and everlasting life. This should be clear to see by analyzing the two models below. To wit, by unlocking the power of faith, we are eliminating doubt, the leading degree of lawlessness. Next, by unlocking the power of obedience, we are eliminating disobedience, the second primary degree of lawlessness. And in doing so, we have taken our first major step in the way of holiness, and we have eliminated 8 degrees of lawlessness. My dear friends, this is how we grow into the spiritual image and likeness of Yahushua Messiah. To wit, we must put on all the degrees of holiness while simultaneously putting off all the degrees of lawlessness. And this, my friends, is how I can guarantee that you will obtain the seal of Elohim if you follow the teaching and training I provide for the full duration of this phase. Here is why. By the power the Spirit has invested in me, I will show you how to eliminate every degree of lawlessness by showing you how you can unlock every degree of holiness, all of which constitute the power required to eliminate their corresponding degrees of lawlessness. In the case of doubt, I will show you how to eliminate it by simply showing you how to unlock the power of faith and how you can wield faith in every spiritual battle and or conflict. The same goes for every degree of lawlessness for the following reason, which should be clear by now. Every degree of lawlessness has a corresponding degree of holiness, which Yahuwah has designed for the specific purpose of defeating its corresponding degree of lawlessness. Not only this, but every degree of holiness is vastly superior to its corresponding degree of lawlessness. Therefore, the power and potential of the Spirit and his role in our victory is not in question, and it never will be. My dear friends, the only question is, will you rise to the challenge and complete the work required for you to obtain the victory? If you are, I'll say it again. Stay with me. We are just getting started. To wit, the foundation has been laid, and very soon we'll begin our deep dive into these battles you must win to eliminate all 80 degrees of lawlessness. And remember, if you follow the teaching and the training, you will win. Now, here is the final word. The time is now for us to act, and all who add must first subtract. This is the message, my friends, and it is not something that should be new to you if you've been with us from the beginning. To wit, I have made it very clear that we all have a limited amount of spiritual volume within our beings. Ergo, it is impossible to unlock all the powers of the Spirit and simultaneously retain all the degrees of lawlessness. It is impossible, and thus we are forced to choose to hold on to the lawlessness that is destroying us, or to embrace his holiness so he can seal us, so he can save us. Again, the choice is yours. But whatever you do, make up your mind today. And always remember, for every matter, there is a season and a time for every purpose. And regarding lawlessness, now is the time and the season to throw away. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on all the lessons you have heard this week and ask the Father to give you clarity on anything you are struggling to receive. And if you are led, please feel free to reach out to me. You can fill out a form on our website and let us know what questions you have. And remember, the only question that can truly hurt you is the one you fail to ask. Last but not least, enjoy the upcoming Shabbat and the weekend, and be ready to get back at it next week as we continue to make our calling and election sure in pursuit of the precious and priceless seal of Elohim. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 3:10, Lawlessness v. Spiritual Growth. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 3:11, A Deep Dive into Lawlessness, Part 1. I will post this podcast on Monday, July 22nd, 2024. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.